Mr. Barr, 70% of libertarians, along with thousands of libertarian-minded Republicans and independents, were planning on switching over to the Republican Party to vote for Ron Paul. And Steve Cubby, who is one of your opponents for the Libertarian nomination, recognized that this was an extraordinary situation, and that if Ron Paul were to in fact receive the nomination, that he would throw his support behind him. Now, in the past week, if he had been nominated by the Republicans, in the past week, I've been kind of concerned. I've seen some activity in your campaign that's made me a little worried about your opinion of Ron Paul. You did not attend his press conference on Wednesday, and there was some hostility from your press director towards his camp. Now, we already sort of had some mixed feelings about you as a drug warrior in Congress and your votes for the Patriot Act and the war. I was wondering why I should vote for you.
What do you want government to do? What do you believe in? All I can tell you is what I believe in, what I think we ought to be doing with the government to dramatically reduce the size, the scope, the cost, the power of the federal government, and correspondingly increase individual liberty dramatically. Neither of the other candidates is going to do that.
Right.
You make the choice. If you'd rather vote for Republican big government, vote for John McCain. If you like the Democrat version of big government, vote for Senator Obama. If you don't like either of those, and you want somebody who you may not agree with on every policy issue, but will, in fact, dramatically begin the process of shrinking the size, the power, the cost, and scope of the federal government, then vote for Bob Barr. Yes, sir.
I saw your appearance on Beck recently. I forget the name of the show, but Glenn Beck hosted it. And you guys, well, he basically characterized, I guess, Penn Jillette, that sort of libertarian, more, like he characterized as radical libertarians, I guess you'd say, but basically believes that a situation like with Russia and Georgia, that really is none of our business, and that our only business and our only obligation to the rest of the world is to trade with them. And that seems to be the majority of libertarians, their views, but you agreed with Glenn Beck that it's foolish isolationism, and I probably misunderstood what you said, but I was just wondering, because I know you don't support exporting democracy at gunpoint, which is basically the status quo of our foreign policy, but if you don't support, I guess, what you would call foolish isolationism, then what level of intervention in foreign affairs do you support other than our obligation to just trade?
The question is basically one that goes to the heart of what sort of foreign policy do I advocate, and does the Libertarian Party stand for? There are, in fact, some libertarians who believe that the only basis or the only purpose for which we ought to have foreign relations is for trade, facilitate trade. I don't subscribe to that, and I don't think most libertarians these days do. That truly very isolationist, other than in the economic sphere arena. I believe that we do have an absolute obligation to protect our country, to maintain military for that purpose, to protect our vital national interests, to protect our borders against illegal immigration. I don't favor illegal immigration. So I do favor a continued strong military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, and Coast Guard. Do we need a military as large and as globally positioned as we currently have it? No. We have troops in a lot of areas, a lot of countries where we don't need them. And it's simply a drain on our military and the dissipation of our military's capability to maintain tens of thousands of troops in countries like Germany that are more than capable of defending themselves. I do believe that we need to maintain port facilities, for example, in all of the major water bodies around the world. You never know when there is going to be a true crisis. We need to maintain air facilities, landing rights in key countries around the world. We need to maintain treaties and other international instruments to have overflight rights, because you don't know at a moment's notice if a crisis crops up, one of our embassies is attacked, for example, where you might need to send planes or seaborne troops from. So we have to maintain a presence around the world, but it is facility, U.S. personnel that are attacked, or which our intelligence, that is our first line of defense, having a good foreign intelligence capability, which we don't really have nowadays to nearly to the extent that we should or could have. But if in fact we have sound foreign intelligence that indicates reliable sources or whatever that there is an attack on a U.S. facility or U.S. personnel plant, you need the capability, and I would maintain the capability to act against that. But you don't have to wait until the gun pointed at your house actually fires. But that does not mean that you can just go invading and occupying foreign countries like we've done in Iraq. So we need a military. We need to protect our border. We need to protect our facilities overseas and our personnel wherever they are. And that requires a substantial national defense structure. But the emphasis has to be on national defense. And it can be done at a considerably cheaper price than currently. We're spending $400 million a day in Iraq. And that's highly irresponsible. And there's no reason for it either. Yes, sir.
Early on in your congressional career, you helped marshal through a bill, not a bill, it was an add-on to a bill called the Lautenberg Amendment. Do you appreciate that now, and do you think that it's proper as a libertarian philosophy that the government needs to take freedoms and rights away from citizens who basically could have done nothing more than got into the market?
No, the government certainly ought not to be in a position to take those rights away. What I remember about the amendment that you're talking about is it did not have contained in it any way for individuals to properly contest the misdemeanor convictions that they might have had years before, and we inserted some language to ensure that they had to at least have gone through a knowing disposition or giving up of their rights. I'm about as strong a proponent of the Second Amendment. That's why I've been elected several times to the NRA board.
Would you work to repeal that as elected president?
And which are you talking about? One thing that's very important that I would do is take a look at all of the firearms laws. We have far too many of them. Many of them, such as the one you're talking about, go too far in restricting the ability of individuals to retain, possess, use firearms. There's no mechanism in the government right now, even though the law provides that if a person is disabled, legally disabled from possessing a firearm, that is, they've been convicted of a felony in any federal or state court, they've been judgmentally incompetent, they surrendered their citizenship, they were dishonorably discharged from the military. Those are legal disabilities on purchasing a firearm. The law has to be remedied. It has to be amended to loosen those, to provide a mechanism for a person to have their rights restored. If a person goes out and commits a violent offense, I have no problem at all with saying they have, in fact, forfeited their right to keep and bear arms. But there has to be a mechanism for them to go back and say, look, this was an error, the same as a pardon or a commutation of a sentence, but you can't do that because Congress, year after year after year, has failed to provide any funds for that mechanism for a person to have their rights restored. So that's one of the things also that we need to readdress. But the Lautenberg is also absolutely. Yes, sir.
It does seem that in some respects the bill came back and say that the fairness to major parties and go head-to-head with them on the issues that will be perceived as less legitimate and not really quote-unquote void. So what are some of the concrete actions that you and your campaign are doing in order to get a new legislation possibility to happen?
Question about gaining access to the debates. There's not an awful lot that other than trying to boost our presence, boost the public's awareness of my candidacy by getting out as much as we can. We don't right now have